go a little wider. Brings ball back for Marshall. The footwork. Benji Marshall. Now the speed. The footwork again. Away from Peachy. Passes without looking. Away for Richards. Back to Fitzhenry. That is as good as you will see.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the SuperCoach Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, coach of the terrible Badonkadonk, just proving the saying that do as I say, not as I do, please, guys. Tonight, as usual, we have Glenn. Nice week for you, mate. How'd you go?
Yeah, I could have been better, mate. I got a little insane this week and traded out Munster to Brown to Munster, and so I got 1,384, which could have been round about 1,500 if I just left things alone. So sometimes if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, sometimes we try and get a bit too tricky, don't we? Sometimes, me in particular.
Do you remember what I said on the pod last week? I said, Brown, go Brown. I said, anyone that's going Munster over Brown's nuts. And then I did it. Like,
yeah, I'll make the curse. And also tonight, guys, we are joined by a very special guest tonight, the doctor himself, Kane Anderson. Welcome, Kane, mate, on the Tragics debut, mate.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me.
No, good, mate. How'd you go last week, all right?
It started really rough. On Saturday evening, I was in the 600s with only 3 to play and ended up with a 13.08. So it was a massive recovery. The Pappy captain, Dillbags, and Josh King, I think I might have been in the 700s. Anyway, but yeah, pretty close to double my score just with 3 players to finish the round. So pretty happy with the 13.08 and puts me just inside the 9K mark, which is better than the 45K I was at after round 2.
Oh, no, it's not too bad. At least you can have a respectable score, unlike myself. I managed to cop a 1,039. I was trying to be tricky myself. I mentioned last week that I decided I'm going to throw the sneaky captain on Fafita to start the week. Everything said go Fafita. It was on his left side, no Campbell. Sarko and him play well together, and he still doesn't get the ball. I think he, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he's having a bit of another team wanting to show him up. I think maybe they just don't want to pass the ball to him. So
yeah, it's craziness.
Yeah, I don't know. You could see him; he was getting frustrated. But like throwing your hands in the air is one thing. Maybe go and get the ball. That's what's really frustrating me a little bit. He threw his hands in the air saying, "Give it to me." But like, is this because he's too scared to take on the middle boys, or is he wants to just
100% he is.
Yeah, he wants to go over that center. He wants to go over the halves. He doesn't want to go in the middle. Like, yeah,
that's why he stands on the 10 meters in from the sideline mark. He doesn't want to run at anyone that's going to hit him.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. It's trust everyone. I think I feel like I want to trade him out this week. I think I have to, but also I've lost a bit of money there. And I feel like as soon as I trade him out, the way my season's going, he'll get the 3 tries and he'll get the 150. So,
well, look, he's still averaging 60.
Yeah, so I got like Stags, for example, in my team. He's probably going to go down less in cash Stags because he's a bit lower value. But I'm thinking I might because Fafita, he's still scoring. Yeah, he's not going to hurt me with a score, but I'm not getting what I paid for, which is frustrating. So
yeah.
So I'm thinking about maybe it's going Stags out over Fafita, unfortunately. So. But enough about my little hissy fit over my team. Let's go to the news. I know we've had a pretty busy afternoon in news, mate. Glenn, how'd you go with the news, mate?
Yeah, mate. I mean, I thought I had it all set, and then every 5 minutes something else was coming in. So I'll try and get through it quickly. So as we all know, Taylor May's been charged by the police. He will play up until his court case. So those that don't panic. But it is something to keep your eye on. He goes to court in May. Turbo is out for a month with a knee injury, which is sad for all of us that love rugby league, taking our SuperCoach hats off and just, we all love watching Turbo play rugby league. Parker is in for Kaloa. Kaloa is out. So apparently he's got an injury. I just got told by Kane. So from SuperCoach Whisperer. Broncos lose Albert Kelly and Carrigan. Carrigan with an MC. So he's MCL. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. And Felegla's been suspended until round 7. Connor Tracy groin, which gives Talakai another crack at centre wing. Titans Kelly, round 6 COVID, and Jaden Campbell comes back round 6. Laramia from the Storm, round 10. Meany onto the wing. Knights had Barnett out to 10, Fitzy 10, and Brodie Jones again backs up another week at second row. And Frizzell has tightened hammy, so just keep an eye on him if you own him as well. Kickout HIA to be cleared. Toho 911. Souths lost Nichols, syndesmosis injury. So Dragons dropped Sloan and Amone. Warriors prop Cheapy Viliami Valet named on extended bench, but apparently won't be back to rounds 5 or 6. And I already mentioned
he's named to play for the Dolphins this week.
Yeah,
Valea.
that's right. I read you wrote that. Okay, that's interesting. And Payne Haas and Kelly had a bit of a push you pull me thing going on. So Payne Haas was a real upset about someone stomping on his shoes, and the NRL's making a mountain out of a molehill from my perspective. And
100%.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute if you want. I'd like to. Josh King. So here's a bit for other people. So there's a few players that are going to get dual status now. So Josh King will get second front row status. So he's already front row. McDonald will get second row front row. And S. Walker will go to 5'8". Lolo front row. And Fletcher Baker will also get dual front row, second row. And that's pretty much it. Oh, there's one other thing, and that's that Flano's been selected to play for the Panthers, which I kind of think, I really like this kid, and I think he's got talent. I just think it's a bit sad that he's playing his first game back with Burton against the reigning premiers Panthers. And that's
it's a bit of a rough draw. You get brought back in for your first game, and you get to go and face the Panthers, who are going to not let him do anything.
It feels like a setup to me, I mean, he plays the Panthers, and I think it's the Bunnies in the next game. And, I really like this kid. I mean, my son and I talked about him years ago, and we said he was a bit in, I mean, you might laugh at what I say here, but he's a bit in the Nathan Cleary mould, but in early stages, if that makes sense. So, I mean, he's got that kind of build, kind of game in him, that front on defense kind of thing. He needs to learn his craft. I mean, he's still a young player that needs to learn his craft, but I actually like him. A lot of people bag Flano, and I would like to see the kid do well. And I think once they get past that draw, they hold on to him. I think you'll be surprised how well he'll do.
Yeah, I think you see what South have done with Ilias, how he started off a bit rough first couple of games, and every game he gets a chance, he plays better and better and better, and he's looking better every game. If they just gave Flano a bit more of a chance, I think, I do agree. He just needs to get that time. You can't get better and better at a certain position or your spot in the NRL if you only get given a couple of games and then you crap, get out. Like, how are you supposed to? I've always been taught that you fail and fail many times so you can learn from those failures. So you can't get better from that. So your thoughts, Kane?
Yeah, well, I think it's not necessarily bringing him in for his own sake. I think it's more for Burton's sake.
Yeah.
I think Burton's had too much pressure on his shoulders to do organising and all those extra little bits and pieces, where Flano is another good kicking option and can do a bit more organising and let Burton kind of chime in and when he needs to and have a bit more of an attacking game himself. So in terms of the balance of the side, I think it's a lot better.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think that he's a genuine 7, and the ones that have played alongside Burton have not been genuine 7s. And I think that if he does take the controlling game, it allows Burton to be that running 5'8" that we saw him do at Panthers. I agree.
Yeah, totally agree. So we'll move on to the Payne Haas and Albert Kelly incident. I'm not sure about you guys, but if I'm at the pub and I'm with a mate of mine who sits staring me a little bit and he's stepping on my shoes, and then I just give him a little walloper in the cheek, the guy at the pub's going to tell me, all right, you guys have had enough, get out. And that'll be the end of it. That's pretty much all it was. Yeah. And these guys are done.
Did he even hit him though? He just pushed him away.
No, it was a bit of an open, closed kind of fist, but holding the shirt, but a push. It wasn't even a punch. It was more of a push.
That's what I mean. It was just pushing him away, get away from me.
I don't know, man. He's got a lot of off-field dramas in the past, but that's just crap. That's just
that's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to wonder if it wasn't Haas, if it'd be such a big issue. Look, I get the understanding that it happened outside of a club and therefore it's not a great look for the game. But shit, I've been watching the game for 55 years and I could tell you stories all day long that go a lot worse than that with players. And, I just think that it's a mountain out of a molehill, and I actually feel sorry for Haas in this.
Oh, I do 100%. And look, you have players throw punches on the field.
Yeah.
They might get 10 in the bin, but they're not suspended the next week. But Haas, who pushes a teammate away from him who's drunk and being a dimwit, And he's going to cop weeks for that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I just don't think it's all, especially like, and one thing that really annoys me as well is who are these idiots filming it? Like,
Yeah.
I hate this stuff. Like, people have their own private lives, and I'm so sick to death if people like filming crap and then what do they get out of it? Do they sell this to a paper and get heaps of money for it? I don't think it would be a lot of money. I think it's just
no, it's just everything gets recorded now. Everyone has a phone on them. Everyone records everything that happens everywhere. So it's just the way the world is now.
Yeah, no,
reflection on today.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hope there's some common sense used when they do the pass down the punishment. So, but I'm not looking hopeful. So, all right. Let's move on to the trade targets through positions, guys. So I'll start off with the hooker position. I think that's obvious here with Harry Grant's number one target. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glenn?
Yeah, I agree. I think Harry Grant and Cook's not far behind. I think with the draw coming up, Cook could be quite interesting for those that haven't got the money to quite get to Grant.
Yeah, I like. So I was just last week. He got a nice little 84 points, bringing his average to 88. So he's very consistent doing what he's doing. And even though he's 644k, break even still 28. So he's smashing that when he sleeps.
Yeah.
And the other scary part is 20% ownership as well. So that's really hard to go up again. I haven't got him, and I need to try to move heaven and earth to get him. So, but like Glenn mentioned, my next guy here, Damien Cook, he's got a nice little draw there. It could be that little stepping stone to get to him. Kane, your thoughts?
One thing that I was looking at today is that for Grant, with his 2 games that he's played so far, he's had 2 try assists in both of those games to average in the 80s. And I think over Cook's 4 games that he's played, he's only had 1 try assist, but I'm not sure what his average is, but high 60, 70 sort of mark.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Souths have played some pretty tough opposition over that first month, and they've got a really good run coming up. I feel like a few more attacking stats might come Cook's way, and I'm not saying that he's going to outscore Grant at all, but I don't think it'll be far off for this next 6 to 8 weeks or something.
Yeah,
I feel like he could be pretty close. So I'm tempted. I don't have either of them, and I have been tempted to bring in Cook basically because of Grant's high ownership. And will he get rested for 20 minutes in blowout games? Will he get situations where everyone else is scoring the points and he doesn't get it and assist that game and pulls out a 45? So, I think it, obviously Grant is the flavor of the month. Everyone wants to go and pull their teams apart to get Grant, and he's likely to be the number one. But if you're still trying to scrape some cash together, I think Cook's a great option.
Can I just add to that quickly? An interesting point that you just brought up, Kane, was the fact that everyone's got Grant, and you're not going to catch the people in front of you by getting who everybody else has got. So sometimes, you've got to zig when everyone else zags. So the actual option of going the pod way to Cook could actually turn out well. I mean, it may not, but I mean, you have to look at those options. It's pointless or futile, really, just buying who everyone else has and expecting to catch up, because basically all you're doing is building the team that's already beating you.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, if that extra 80K that you save going Cook over Grant is allowing you to then upgrade your Schneider to Cody Walker or a Cleary, if you want to go that way, or whatever. If that is the difference, then you're able to get 2 players instead of 1 player, and that obviously is going to be beneficial in the long run as well.
And not only that, as well, as we all seen the ceiling that Cook can have in the past when he was
Definitely.
And I'm not sure about you guys, but I think I'm seeing the Cook of old. He ran the ball like 9 times in the first half last week. Like, it was looking really solid. And like you said before, he has had those tough matchups. So once those attacking stats come, he can get to that ceiling that we once loved. So he could start being, I don't want to say it, but he might start closing that gap nicely against Harry Grant there. And there might be 2 premium hookers by the year's end. Yep,
could easily be.
And it's always good. Like, I mean, when I set my team up, I went Brown instead of Munster. I actually went Brandon Smith instead of Harry Grant. And I always do that because I'm pulling 50 here, I'm pulling 50 there. And that as that money kind of mounts up, it enables you to put in one more player that other people aren't able to do. And so it can work in your favour. It can also kill you. But, you know, that's the logic behind one of the reasonings that I go. The one just that bit cheaper that I think can do the same job.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other hookers of interest that might be trade targets or we want to discuss before we move on to the front row?
Well, I've got Starling, but he's not getting the minutes that I was hoping he would get. They've got a pretty tough run coming up, so that was kind of who I was looking to potentially bump up to a Cook or Grant. But now with Cooler out, that he was my cash generation trade for that, so we'll have to wait and see what happens now.
Yeah, it's annoying because I think there's probably one the way he's playing, there's probably one more price rise out of him because I got him too. And that game happened to be against Melbourne. And then week after he's got Cowboys and then back down again to Penrith. So
yes,
it does open up after that to Cowboys, to Warriors and Bulldogs, but it's just an up and down draw. And I don't think we can.
This Storm game could just stunt all cash generation. If he gets another 30, then he's got 2 30s in the rolling average. He's going to be looking at a high break even and probably lose money against the Cows. So it didn't work out quite as well as I would have liked, but yeah, we'll see how we go.
One of the upsides about playing the better sides sometimes can be that their base was better. I mean, they've got to make more tackles, but I mean, when you're playing a side like the Storm, who can put on quite a number sometimes, that can actually lose its momentum.
He's also not playing 80.
Yeah, that's right. What's he playing? 60?
Yeah, 55 to 60.
He's coming on at about 20 minutes and often getting dragged off a little bit, maybe at the end. But one thing I will, before we move on to front row, I will mention one thing. Last week at one of the surprise packets, it's not really a surprise packet, it was Tavanga. Yeah, he looked really good in that position. And we all know, we've all seen what he can do. Unfortunately, he gets suspended. I was literally looking at him as a sneaky pod because I love when he plays those big minutes at lock. And then when he got suspended, I cried a little inside. But when he gets back, if they Warriors see that he could be that lock and put Curran to the edge and keep it that way for a bit longer, I really like Tavanga.
I don't mind it, but I don't see it happening because
I totally agree.
I just think that they'll want Curran back in the middle. He played so well in the middle for those first few games, and he was not quite as involved on the weekend, and I felt like it kind of hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, I might caution on that too from another perspective. So one is that one of his undoings is his own versatility. Is that he gets moved around in positions quite often to fill those gap spots, which can actually hurt him. The other one is he's a meathead. You know, he has a tendency to find himself suspended often. So I mean, that would be my two cautions on him.
Yeah, just the one to keep an eye on because I know what he can do, but like you said, there's so many risks there. So, all right, guys, we'll move on to the front row. I'm going to go a bit different. We've already had a little touch on Haas there for a little bit. So I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to talk about Tavita Pangai. Really liked the look of him last week, but can he keep it up? He hasn't been very consistent at the start of the year. Kane?
Well, he's getting the more minutes each game, and is he named back on the edge again this week?
Yeah.
Because he would have played 70 minutes or so this week.
73, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, he's getting there. He's building up that fitness a little bit. He's obviously been willing to offload right from the get-go. He had that one poor score there, which was just one of those things that happens when you're not playing 80 minutes and you're in the middle and maybe you don't have the ball for the period that he's on the field and you just don't get those tackle bust and offloads like you normally would. So that's going to happen when he's playing those smaller minutes. But 80 minutes on an edge, doesn't matter who's playing. Because he's going to pull.
He's got the toughest, I reckon the toughest matchup this week, and I reckon he's going to go real well against his old team, the Panthers. So
yeah, quite likely. Yeah, I think he's still a good option. I think his break even's still relatively high, 60s. Yep, there you go.
69, yeah.
So there's no rush to go and jump on him, but I think he's a sneaky little pickup if you want to go and go against the crowd, particularly if Haas ends up out and you can sneak him into your front row somewhere. That'd be a good play.
Yeah, I like it. Glenn, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, what I like about him, I'll give you the likes first, is that he's playing in a side where they need the offload from him. So he's got kind of that free license to offload, and he's kind of been offloading at will, and he's good at that part of the game. His minutes have been increasing each game. It still makes me nervous, I think it was 47, 62, 73, something like those minutes. So as Kane said, they've been increasing each game. I actually looked at him today as an option myself, going for feeder to him, enabling me cash to go elsewhere. And obviously that can't happen now because of other factors, as we said, with Koala. But yeah, I don't mind it, mate. I think it's a good play. I just think it's risky. I just point out again, another meathead that doesn't confine himself in the judiciary.
Yeah, and I can see it when he plays those passionate games against like older teams as well. Like he does get a bit more fired up as well. So it might be a bit of a. Yeah, I reckon he's one player that I could look at because, like I said, my plan was potentially to go for feeder out this week, but I could potentially go Stags out instead, and maybe for feeder next week to go to him and give another watch. Because if he gets another score around 69, his price isn't going to go up too much, and could be an option. I like the idea of it. Or if Haas is out for 2 weeks, whether you can handle having no Haas for 2 weeks, which you might have to.
I'd probably just hold and play the Kings.
Yeah, that's it. I wish I had the Kings.
Just an upside on the Kings is that because they've now been given dual, if you own Lolo, you can actually move Lolo up to front row, move the other King down, and if he's not getting the minutes you like, you can move him to the bench at second row and either trade him to someone when his break even drops down or play him. You know. But I mean, what I saw from King last week worried me. I mean, he got a try in 50 minutes and still only ended on a fairly. Was it 59? I think he ended on
59. Yeah,
59. That's with the try, so that's frightening. But the other side to that coin is it was a high scoring game, a lot of tries scored, which means less pace. So
exactly. And there wasn't a line break with that try either.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, we know he's got some pretty solid base there, but it's just those minutes that are a bit of a worry. Looks like so.
It was an ugly try, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I literally only have the one King, and it isn't him, and it's just really frustrating. Max is doing all right for me, making some good money, but yeah, I've been getting really annoyed with all these little sneaky tries, and he's looking good, that Josh King. So, all right, well, talk about another one here, another duel, IPAT. He's looking really good, and I think he's just staying that. He's going to be that consistent second row, 80 minutes on the edge there. I'm really liking him. I think I said it last week too. I think a Haas and IPAT front row combo is, I think, the money. I reckon that's where you need to be. Your thoughts, Kane?
Yeah, I agree. They're the two front runners, and then you've got guys like your TPJ, who's your pod play as your front row number 2, because I think everyone will pretty much have Haas. So yeah, he's looking solid. He's consistent. He got a bit of a rest on the weekend, but they were well ahead. So yeah, doing great things. I think we haven't really had all of Lane, Brown, Madison, and IPAP all playing together.
Yep.
So that's one thing just to keep in mind in terms of trying to buy a front row. I'd probably want to have a look and see how that rotation works this week before I go and take the plunge on that. Because I think Lane's back to starting and Maddo's on the bench. So anything could really happen with that rotation at the moment.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Glenn?
Well, yeah, that's what I was actually going to point out was what he's just said there is that I'm still not comfortable with that rotation because we haven't had the full complement to know how that's going to work. My plan was and always has been and probably still is getting IPAP after round 13. So he plays in the second bye round. So my plan was to run with Haas and try and skimp along in that position and fill in the strike positions. And but I think that if you do have IPAP or if you do get IPAP, I don't think it's a bad play. I just think, as Kane pointed out, it might be a little bit of a wait and see and just see how his minutes pan out with the new additions.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other front rows here that we could probably, if we can't quite get to these two guys yet, any other front rows you guys think might be a little stepping stone to get there?
Was the only other one that I've heard spoken about recently was the South cheapie Mawali.
Yeah, he's debuted for the season, this week.
Last debut, yeah. So he got 30 odd points in 12 minutes I saw today. So yeah, fairly decent PPM, and it looks like he's going to get a few more minutes now with Nichols gone for a few weeks. So he could potentially be someone to look at next week as a downgrade option, and then be able to go and do your bump up to a gun half or something.
Yeah, one thing I'll say as well, I don't want to. I've only spoken really about the two gun ones here, but there are two players that I really like in that position that are a bit cheaper that could just plot along for you. Is Jai Arrow. He seemed to be doing a bit of a job. I think last week it was a bit of a. I was pretty upset about last week. He got put in the centres. It was before he went off quite early, didn't he? And then was put on quite late to fill that position. So I'm not sure what happened there. Do you know anything what happened there, Glenn?
Another one who's the victim to his own abilities. One that quite often gets moved around. I don't know if you paid attention last season, but his minutes, he started a little bit okay last season and then it kind of reduced. I think the fact that South have such a great draw coming up, you might land an attacking stat. But again, his versatility can be his own undoing. The one that Kane mentioned could be a good downgrade from the Josh King is when he ripens. Like the one place I'm comfortable to not spend big on it this early is my front row. I usually go with the one premium and then I'll kind of have a cheapie and then a couple of slow burns on the bench. This season we've been quite lucky with King and King on our bench that they've been plays and they're making money. They're doing both and quite quickly actually. So it could be a look at to trade down to if you want serious money somewhere.
Yeah, I like it. We'll move into the second row, and I'll kind of segue into it by saying that another one that will be turning into a front row for we touched on earlier was Tom Lolo. So he's only available second row now, but Lolo is actually I've noticed his minutes are getting a bit more. I think they were easing him in because you know what he's like at the start of the season. They give him a few less minutes because the heat gets pretty hot up there, and then they give him more and more minutes. It's looking pretty good. Kane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always been telling everyone who's been wanting to sell him or whatever over the first few weeks that you just need to ride it out. If you got him at the start, you've got to wait for his fitness to build up. He's going to get more minutes. He's going to have more impact as time goes on. And he's been solid the whole time. He hasn't lost any money. He's probably going to be going up a little bit this week from memory. Solid scores. He'll be a great front row too as well when he gets his duel next week.
Yeah, your thoughts, Glenn?
Yeah, well, I've started with Lolo. I mean, he plays the first buy round. He's got duel now. I mean, he's not doing anything great, but he's doing what we need. And in a season where 50s and 60s in that position are quite acceptable, I guess. He's not going anywhere from my side. I'm quite happy with Lolo at the moment. Other places to worry about.
Yeah, so I've obviously gone a bit weaker in the front row. So I've got the one gun in there and the rest of them are pretty cheap. So I've got Arrow and also Lolo in the second row. So this is good options for me in the future. I can actually move them up later on and actually run those two or three guns up there. So I was really counting on him getting that duel. And when I saw that come out I think it was yesterday it came out, I was pretty stoked. So, all right, well, let's talk about the second row that is on everyone's mind is Cam Murray. He's on fire. 714,000, got 76 points in the weekend. His break even is 22, and he's owned by 15% of coaches. That should be skyrocketing very soon, I think. Glenn?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, I talk about it often. I love watching set plays with sides, and Murray's involved in a few of them set plays. As a Cook owner, I really want to bring Murray in because I just think the two of them together go hand in hand. I can see a scenario where Cook puts Murray in, and and that always nice to rack up together. The downside to Murray obviously is the price point. He's really, I mean, at a fairly heavy price point, and so you're paying for what you're getting.
Yeah, Kane, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the price point that's an issue for me. He's always been consistent. He's always been a decent player. They've got a decent run coming. But then the other side of that coin is with a decent run, does he spend more time sitting on the bench? Is he going to play more minutes against the better teams and less minutes against the weaker teams? And the other factor is with that price point, I don't want to be spending up to a Murray in the back row if that's going to cost me getting Starling to Grant or getting a Schneider up to Cody Walker or something like that. So I'd rather be trying to build up those kind of more key positions than trying to bump a David Fafita up to Cameron Murray. I feel like that's kind of counterintuitive. You're spending more money on David Fafita to get to Cameron Murray, and that doesn't compute for me. I couldn't do that.
And I think the ones that are doing it, and I contemplated doing it, but then I had to have a little think about, have I not learned from my mistakes by getting those expensive players that have got that at their peak. He's probably got a bit more to go, but have I not learned anything from getting Fafita in nice and early? I'm going to keep. If I get him at that high price point, my salary cap is going to be a lot lower than anyone else's. I don't need any help getting my salary cap nice and low. So I'm thinking potentially to downgrade Fafita to someone around 500K. And I was going to do some other stuff, but with all the cooler news, and I'm thinking about going Starling up to Cook. It might be my choice now. I think I have to do that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I know when I had a pretty rough week and I tried to pick my head up, and I thought to myself, the best way to do this would be to start from scratch, take a deep breath, and actually start fresh. I think Glen was the one that I was pretty disappointed the whole week, wasn't I, Glen? I think you kind of made me feel a bit better. And start from scratch, get going again, and I think that's what I'm going to do, just to do that again. And another talking point here, guys, Fafita. I think we've made our thoughts pretty clear on Fafita. You guys think he's a sell?
I think that if you need money, he's a sell. I think that he's doing a job at his price point now anyway, that's still 50s and 60s every week. He's not doing Fafita like things that we like, but I mean, you have to sort of balance out your second row as to what you've got there in around that. You know what I mean? There are a few players this week that I think that are at a price point that you could swap down to, and we'll probably talk about them in a minute. But look, if you've got problems elsewhere, Fafita shouldn't be a worry. I wouldn't be stressing out about Fafita. I'd just leave him alone. The draw gets a little bit tougher for him here. That could include him more in the play, could include him less. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think he's a sell. He's averaging 60, which is up there in the second row averages anyway. And he's already lost a chunk of cash. He's probably priced at what he's going to deliver. He's averaging 60. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Imagine when he does.
Yeah.
He scores one try. He's going to pull out a 90 plus score, and everyone's going to be swarming to bring him back. And I don't want to miss that score when it happens, because he's going to score a try eventually. And then I don't want to waste another trade to bring him back in again when everyone else is doing it. So I'm happy to just sit on it. And look, if he gets injured or something like that and he's gone for a couple of weeks, fine. I'll cut my losses then. But for the moment, he's a fit body. He's got a high ceiling. I'm going to leave him alone.
Yeah, I for the last 2 weeks, I've been had him on the chopping block ready to go, and each time I do, I'm like, this is the week he's going to score 3 tries. So I've always I get scared every time I've had my finger on the button ready to trade him out, and I just know as soon as I do, he's going to score 3 tries. So I might just have to hold and find cash elsewhere. But I think I don't want to miss that big score. Another one that I've been seeing a lot of talk about. What are your guys' thoughts on Talakai? Kane?
I'm not a big fan. I think that there is way too much movement in the team. I think his job security is very up in the air. We've heard today that Connor Tracy's not back till about round 8, so that everyone's straight away thinking that he's immediately got that role until then, and then potentially keeps it. I don't think he keeps it. I think Connor Tracy's a better defender, and Talakai provides them both a middle player and an edge player if they need it off the bench. The other factor is that at the start of the year, we had Militalo playing centre with Ikavalu outside him. So that was preferred at the start of the year rather than having Talakai at centre. So that's 2 players that could potentially come in and play centre in front of him, which just scares me off completely. I don't want another player come in that I know I will have to trade out in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I've got enough people that I need to trade out. I don't need to bring another one in the meantime. Even if it's 100K, I don't want to have to bring in another problem. I haven't saved enough trades to be doing that.
Yeah,
they're exactly my thoughts. Glenn, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, Kane nailed it. I think there's too many moving parts. And I think in that scenario, the job security is just not certain for me. And I mean, what's 100 grand worth? Is it worth a trade? I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's first to Tigers and he could rack up a number. But I mean, Talakai's impact for me is off the bench, and that's where I see him playing in that team. So yeah, I'm not going there. But I mean, I'll be honest. I had a look. I mean, the one I actually like, and I'll get a chance to speak about, is Teague Wilton. I think he's an interesting play. But even then, Graham's not too far away either.
But you've also missed some of the rises from Teague as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I have Teague. I got Teague Wilton last week when Firma was ruled out. So I did a shift and went to Teague instead. Yeah. And he got me mid-50s in base and base attack. So, no complaints there. And he's also playing the Tigers this week. So he could jag some attacking stats this week. I actually think Talakai outside him hurt him because Talakai was getting the ball so much and Teague wasn't getting anything. So, yeah, I'll be monitoring Teague's output. He might be one that is one of those people that disappears once he's peaked for me, and he can be someone that gets a downgrade for an upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out as well.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on the whole Talakai thing is the same as you guys. And what I look at is the way the coach is. The coach does not give two craps about our Supercoach team. He wants to have the best team he can possibly have on that field. And having Connor Tracy on that center position, who they both, Talakai and him, both play pretty similar roles. They're both pretty, he's probably a bit more of a heavy ball runner, but they both get pretty good results in that position. But if you put both of them head to head on the bench as a utility impact player, Talakai wins every time. So their team as a whole is better with Talakai on the bench. So yeah, like I said before, Fitzgibbon does not care about our Supercoach team. He wants what's best for the Sharks, and he's doing really good work with them. So I do believe, you might get in for 8 weeks. You might be lucky, but also, like you said before, there's a couple other options out there that he can play around with if he starts being a liability in defence, because we know he's a liability in defence.
Last year, I didn't get Papali'i because he was playing off the bench, and I didn't get Hines because he was going to lose his job. Like, sometimes those right decisions end up being the wrong decision.
I actually, I had Madison in the start of the season. He went down, and so I swapped him to IPAP, and I had Pappenhausen, who went down, and I swapped him to Hines. I mean, I couldn't have got it any better last season. I literally got them at the peak and at the bottom and drew them to the top. But I didn't know when to get rid of IPAP. That was my issue. I should have. I didn't know when to let go.
Well, another example of what you just said, Dan, about getting the right players in the right time. I know that there's certain doubts about players' job security. The other one is Nat Butcher as well on that edge. Yeah. This is almost a prime example of last year with Madison going to the bench. No one jumped on. A lot of people didn't jump on Pappy because they were too scared when Maddo came back. But Maddo came back from the bench. It's the same thing with Angus. Angus on the bench there. How long is it until he gets his spot back? A lot of people holding off as well. So I think Butcher also is a bit of a trap, just waiting to happen. But you never know. It's one of those things, you might risk it for the biscuit or miss out.
What I actually think is going on there is less about Angus kind of losing his edge spot, but more about stiffening up the middle. Yeah. I think Butcher does a good job on the edge. Obviously, Crichton does as well, but I think Crichton has a bit bigger a frame. He's kind of a bit more of a muscle man than what Butcher is in the middle. And I think that combination for the Roosters is why they've gone with that rather than Angus is out of form, we're going to bench him sort of chat, which I've heard a fair bit. So, yeah, I think it's more just a balance thing and toughening up the middle a little bit.
Yeah, what I heard was they were really trying to get some more front row lock minutes into Angus to make him, I think, like you said, stiffen up that middle there. So they're trying to make him more of an all-round player because we know he's a great edge player. And, yeah, I think it's definitely an option there. But I think if they're going to do any – I'm not going to doubt Robbo. I love Robbo, and I think he's a great coach. But I think Angus is a very missed player when he's not in the field. So, Glenn, your thoughts?
I'll just say on both of those, Butcher and Talakai, they're going to be one of those decisions that either way, whoever gets it right gets lucky there. I mean, you could bring them in and they both could be good plays. But what Kane said, and it sticks to me the same, is that I don't want to bring in someone that could be a short-term fix. I'm looking now, I got my money makers and my guns, and that's where my two focuses are: making money or upgrading to premium players now, or buy round or both.
Yeah, good call. Is there any? I know you said you wanted to talk about some more second rowers there, Glenn. Anyone
I'll just
you
throw
have,
a
mate?
few names out. Yeah, so Kobe Hetherington. So Carrigan's gone down in the Broncos. They've lost a fair bit in there with Flegler as well. So I see he could get some good minutes. I mean, I don't know, but I think. I'll mention Cotter. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, how long was Carrigan out for again?
To round 7.
Round 7. So there's only, what, 2
Oh, no,
games?
not Carrigan's. Carrigan's was longer. Sorry, that was Flegler that was round 7.
Yeah.
So Carrigan's MCL 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's say MCL is normally 4 to 6. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, so he'll be out to 4 to 6 weeks. So, I mean, I still think Hetherington in that position. Anyway, it's just one that I find interesting. He could get more minutes starting at lock for those looking to go down to someone, or even a Katoa to him, or Cotter, who's playing 60 minutes, who's playing off the bench, which isn't ideal. But, I mean, some people looking to get rid of Katoa. The other one would be Momasia or Brody Jones. I think Brody Jones worries me with his minutes and Momasia, but I don't mind either of them if you're playing them off the bench. Like, you're not actually putting them into 17. You're just churning over a Katoa who's downgrading to upgrade to, to another one that's going to go up in cash.
Yeah. I'd like to see something out of Brody Jones before I even consider bringing him in.
Yeah.
I think Brody Jones was like when he played last year, he reminded me a bit of Talakai. He was much better in that center position when he running onto the ball. Really good at running. He has run those really good lines, but it seemed to get more points and more attacking stats in that center position and looked really good. But then he'd get put in second row and everyone was like licking their lips, but then he didn't do as well.
The other one I've left out too, mate, is Firma.
Yeah, Firma, that's one that I'm thinking about downgrading to, getting Firma, because I know I've missed a few pay rises there, but I think he might be an option because his security is pretty solid. And they just go on that side. He's looking pretty good. He runs that really good line. Okay.
Yeah, I like Firma. I wanted him all preseason and ended up going elsewhere, and I'm filthy. So I had him all in the whole time. I was spruiking him on all the chats, and then ended up doing something else just to kind of match other people a little bit more. And anyway, I think that he's a good option. He's going to increase in price. He could potentially be someone that you keep in the center wing. I think they've got a pretty rough few games coming up, but aside from that, I like him as a pick.
Yeah, and he'll make money. He's got a -26 break even, which in itself, it's a money play. So from that perspective, I like him. I like you, Kane. I did the same thing. I actually had Firma there, and then I swapped him to Stags. And then I looked at
that's what I did.
Yeah, I was going to take Stags out and move Aiken down, and I didn't do that either. And I just kept looking at Stags, and then I couldn't get rid of him.
All right, guys, let's move on to the halfbacks here. So on the weekend, there was a pretty nice little standout there from Moses, guys. 144 points. That was a great game to watch. Glenn?
Oh, mate, that one hurts. I mean, I started Brown, and Tyrone and I had, both my son and I had Moses in there, and he wasn't moving. We looked at the draw, how long it went for, and we just said Moses and Brown just stick out. And then at one stage, we had Gutho, Brown, and bloody Moses and Reed. We just kept looking at all four of them, and I kept thinking, no, I'm not doing it. And then I ended up changing Moses to Walker last minute. Like, it was literally the day before, from Moses to Walker, and geez, it just hurts. It's one of those things where you just, that 50-50 call you just got wrong.
Well, he hasn't been flash until this week, really. He's been solid without being great. So, it's only really this week. And realistically, if you started with Moses, have you already upgraded him to Hines?
Which is very likely.
Which you would have missed the score anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Another little had a cracker of an NRL game. It translated pretty nicely to SuperCoach, 80 points. DCE looked bloody good. I think a lot of talk about him keeping that Australian number 7 jersey, and a lot of people bad-mouthing him for it. I think he's shut a few guys up, and I'm a Cleary fan, so he looked really good. That kicking game was amazing. Kane?
Yeah, he looked really good. Like you said, the kicking game was ridiculous. He just had it on a string the whole game. And in terms of the Australian jersey thing, I think that obviously Cleary's come back this week and had a pretty quiet game and was eased in a little bit. I think at the moment, it's still Daly's jersey until Cleary proves that he's fully back and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, well, I'm happy as a Panthers fan. I want if we're going to keep winning, I'm happy to let him ease Cleary in from the 4 weeks, so he drops nicely in price, and I can
Very
pick him up.
much so.
Glenn, your thoughts on DCE, mate?
Well, I've got a few things on him. So listen, my son's coach, his Sons of Thunder, he's the one that's actually leading the 1% comp, and he's got DCE. And he messaged me last week and he said, mate, I'm looking at swapping DCE to Hines. What do you think? And I said, listen, I'm actually going to tell you not to. I said, because in my opinion, I said, the reason you're doing so well is your side's a bit different to everyone else's. And that's where I see one of the places that you're doing well. Having said that, I would now do it. Now that Turbo's out of the side, I think that changes that for me. And so personally, this week I would be looking at DC to Hines. But last week I talked him out of it and it panned out to be a good play.
Yeah, I think a lot of stocks in that Manly team have dropped a little bit now that Turbo's out for 4 to 6. So
For sure.
yeah. Any other halfbacks? Besides, obviously we've got Cleary there. We already discussed him. He kind of eased in nicely. I think we're going to probably avoid until we get at least one good game out of him to see that he's back. Kane?
Sorry, what was that one? I just
sorry.
had a message.
All good. No, I was just talking about Cleary. I think I'm not sure if we're all agree.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah. I want to get one more game where he's looking like his old self before I can even think about getting him in.
I've probably got about 4 weeks before I can afford him.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some cash to get other guns in, so I might even have longer. I might
exactly.
have to wait. I might need to wait till after the bloody Origin, which might be my only choice, which is going to suck. So, Glenn, your thoughts?
Well, I made a commitment and I'm hoping I stick to it, which was that I wasn't going to buy Cleary until after the Origin. I just think at his price point, I can't afford to. My objective was Cook Grant, getting in Hines, Brown, Walker, or Munster, whichever way that turns out, and Pappenhausen, Teddy. But you got Snyder and Ilias in those positions. I think Ilias is one. So if you're going to run 258s, I think Ilias is the hold for that draw that's coming up. So I just don't think there's room for him when you need money. And, Snyder and Ilias are genuine cash cows. And Snyder has got one more round for me, and then he's on the punt. I'm punting him, and then I'll move Ilias into that position and hold him until he fattens up as well.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other halfbacks we're looking at that might be interesting? I think it's really Hines. I think is the big one that I'm thinking of.
Everyone's going to be aiming for the Hines Cleary combo. It's
of course.
Just trying to get there as quick as you can without destroying everything else.
Just again, so I don't want to go for Cleary, but if you are way behind, it could be a pod play instead of Hines going Cleary. I think that, after the 46 you got, I'd be waiting. But, it's still, if you're looking for other options, and there's also Sexton, who I thought's been doing very well as well. But, I agree with you. DCE, Hines, and Cleary are the three. And I think everyone will be going for the Hines-Cleary combo at some point.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to 5'8". So we already touched on him earlier in the halves alongside Moses. Brown looking really good as well. He hasn't disappointed, has he, Kane?
One of the things I got right. I started with Brown and he absolutely saved my weekend with Pappy this week. If I didn't have Brown, I would have, even with Pappy, would have had a pretty rough score. So, it's one of those things where you go, okay, he's had a pretty rough year last year. His base is still good. He's a playable player even when he goes poorly. And there's only up, and there's no way I expected this sort of up. He's looking incredible. He's running the ball well. Looks like he's in control of that left edge. He's actually throwing cutouts to wingers, which he wasn't doing at all last year. So yeah, I'm stoked to see him going well.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is he's 612k, negative 37 break even, and also only 8.4% owned as well. So he's still under that pod territory, which is great.
Yeah.
I can see you shaking your head there, Glenn.
I started Dylan Brown. I told you last week on the pod, everyone's asking me about going Munster, and I said, why would you when you got Dylan Brown, whose base is better? He's in a side that's got a better draw, in my opinion, and Munster's in a team where they fight for points. But I mean, I somehow talked myself into Munster through the week, and I just can't believe I've done it. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to get Brown back this round, 100%. It's just how I do that, and I'm looking at selling Snyder a week early. I can't afford to get Brown if I don't do it. If I don't do it this week because of the negative break even, I look at his draw. I just want to read this out to you. So I wrote down all the draws today, all 5 of them. I won't read all of them now, but I'll read out the bunnies. So they've got the Titans, the Tigers, the Knights, the Cowboys. Then they've got 2 tough ones with the Panthers, the Roosters, which you would sit him on the bench for me and play your other one in Cody Walker. You would imagine you'd have him by now.
I'd be playing Brown anyway.
Yeah, or possibly. I agree with his base. I mean, I agree with you.
Get you a 45 if he does nothing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's depending on what your benches are looking like, but I agree with you. And Raiders. And then you look at the one for Walker. You listen to this one. Dragons, Dogs, Tigers, Manly, Broncos, Warriors, Raiders, Tigers. It just goes on and on and on. So for me, personally, as a Munster owner, I'm looking to go Walker Brown. And I know it's contentious. Everyone's going to say I'm off my head, but I am. I'm doing it. I'm stubborn.
I don't agree with selling Munster now that you've just got him.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to have potentially Walker and Munster up there as the top ones. We'll see if Brown can maintain. We don't know if he's going to be able to continue what he's been doing. So you're potentially selling someone that is still performing well. He's only had 1 down score, is likely to be in the top 3 5/8.
Yeah.
To me, he's a keeper, and you're selling him to someone who might be a keeper.
I like what I saw from Brown, Kane. I really do.
Well, you shouldn't have sold him last week.
No, I'm an idiot. And look, I'll just add to that. The difference between Brown this year and last year was that they played Brown on the right last year and they played Moses on the left.
Yes, they swapped back.
Yeah, and he looked at home on the left-hand side. And as you point out, his base is every bit as good as Munster's. In fact, it's better. He had, I think it was 42 and 45. Let's take out the first game where he's moved to centre wing.
Yeah.
So, he's two out of that. They've been incredible.
You do have to count Munster's base attack as his base as well, because he busts tackles like crazy pretty much every game. So that's part of his consistent base.
Yeah,
I think pure base Brown is higher, but then with base and base attack, it's probably Munster that pips him a little bit. So look, I just think you're going to be paying money to go from Munster to Brown now, aren't you?
Well, so one of my scenarios is that this week I can do one of 2 things. I can turn Snyder this week to Walker and just run Munster and Walker, or I can turn which is what I think I'm doing, is I'm going to turn Snyder to Brown and run Munster and Brown this round. And then next round, I'm either going to trade one of the 2 after the cash rose from Brown to Walker, or because I just want that quick cash grab. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to go Munster to Walker. And I know
Munster's 665, so you're downgrading a little bit.
Down still. Okay. Yeah, I still think it's just churning through extra trades when you're going from good player to good player. So you're going to be using 2 trades to get that extra 1 price rise.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, and look, I may not do it, Kane.
I like just going early on Schneider and going straight from Schneider to Cody Walker and then running Munster and Walker, because you could leave them there for the rest of the year and not touch it.
Yeah.
And I like that idea.
Yeah.
Way better than kind of doing the roulette thing.
Yeah.
Never been a fan of that.
No, and me either, really. And I mean, but one of the things that's worked for me in SuperCoach, and I have had some success, is that I'm ruthless. And it's usually with a player that doesn't do well, or if I see something, I usually do it, And my gut tells me Brown and Walker combo is the combo. It really does. But look, we'll see how it pans out next week.
Well, it looks like so Glenn was definitely not on the fence. He was set in stone on doing the Brown Walker. It looks like Kane not only is a doctor, but can be probably a good lawyer too, because he almost changed his mind.
Almost.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we've pretty much discussed all the 5 outs. Is there any other options there you guys are thinking that we could look at? I think they're the best, aren't they? The best 3?
I think they're probably the 3 targets.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking. I mean, there are a couple others. I mean, Luai, he has the ceiling. I don't know if he has the base. I think Cleary steals from Luai, so I wouldn't be doing that one. But, you know, if you're looking for a pod, the other ones that people are going are Dearden. I'm not a fan of that myself, but I think we just pointed out the three. It's definitely Munster, Brown, or Walker and Daylight for me.
If you're doing the Dearden cash grab thing, then you've already missed it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to the centre wing guys. Any centre wing you guys looking at as pods? One of the guys I'm looking at this week is Campbell Graham.
Yeah.
I'm really liking him. He had a pretty tough draw at the start of the season, and still managed to get a pretty decent average out. He's got 70 last week as well. So I'm really liking Campbell Graham. I'm thinking about my possible trades this week was actually make a few downgrades and then upgrade Stags to Campbell Graham, and I would have left me with 17K in the bank, which means I couldn't do my Walker trade next week, but it was definitely tempting.
Yeah, I prefer the Walker trade.
Yeah, so I thought that's what made me turn away from that actually. But yeah, I do like Campbell Graham still. I think he's doing pretty good things. And the other option, because this was actually if I didn't trade out for Feeder. If I traded out for Feeder, I could have brought Targo up temporarily as well, and actually had money to do both. But
yeah, okay.
It might be a bit risky, and it's using a lot of trades to get two players really, because the other two are just for cheapies.
Does it then leave you skinny in the back row as well?
Well, my back row, I started off with a really strong back row, so I've just been trying to correct those errors and slowly taking some out and putting some elsewhere. But I've still got a pretty expensive back row. My cheapest was Tuolungi, but the rest was like I think
same for me.
500,000 was my second cheapest. So I was very, very heavy in that second row spot there. So, all right. Is there any other centre wings you guys are thinking, besides the obvious cheapies, that it might be a sneaky pod?
Not too many that are jumping out at me at the moment, because at the moment I'm just looking at the downgrade options rather than upgrade options there. I do like, in terms of long term, I like Lomax. He's someone that I'll be targeting at some point. He's just consistent. He's one of my favourite guys to watch play. I love the flick pass. It just gets me every time.
Yeah, I saw. I think it was Manu did a flick pass last week that was like it wasn't as good. It wasn't as good as the Lomax one. I was like, it was obviously it was good, but the Lomax ones are just way better. So
it's just pretty to watch.
Yeah, that's right. Anyone? I know. Obviously, I don't believe going to guns is the right trade. Is there anyone that are obvious trades this week? Keep in mind that we've now lost Cooler, Glenn.
Well, I mean, if you're going down, obviously Taylor May. I mean, just keep in mind what I wrote, what I mentioned earlier about the police charges. But I mean, I think he's pretty right until May, and that's about when Toho comes back anyway. So I think Taylor May, if you don't own him, you must get him in this week if he plays because of his minus 128, I think it is, or 123 break even. Targo, I mean, everyone should own Targo and Penasini, I would imagine. I mean, some don't have Penasini, but they would be the most ones. But one of the options that I did look at this week was going for Feeder to Tupou. So it's a little bit out there, but I was thinking of either bringing him or AJ, moving Targo up temporarily so that I could get one of those two guns, and that enabled me enough to get to Cody Walker. So I don't know, that might be the way I'll go. I don't know if Kane's got me or not yet. I'll decide on that through the week, whether I keep it up to Walker Brown combination.
I am a big Tupou fan. I did start with Tupou as well.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those ones that I'm really happy I did. And it was actually because I had Tupou was why I was happy to take Stags as well. Because most people would have had Stags as the premium, and I just looked at, this is all preseason, obviously, looking at my centre wing and having Stags, my premium, who I didn't want and didn't like, kind of made me feel gross. So I had to go and make Stags number 2. And then that kind of became a potential poddish play. But yeah, that didn't work.
And that's a good play because it's most people will be trying to get Tupou into their side. I mean, again, the draw, you listen to the Roosters one. So it's the Broncos,
it's crazy.
Warriors, Dragons, Dogs, Titans, and then after round 10 it gets tough, which is Eels, Panthers, Sharks, and Tupou has the base to play in those games anyway. So Campbell Graham's another that has incredibly good base, and AJ is another one that's got no base, but has the ceiling. So
And the run.
Yeah. And I mean that's right, that beautiful run. And no side better than I see than South creates the gap on that left side. I mean, how many times did you watch AJ get through untouched? I mean, literally no one touched him as he went through.
Well, that's a concern for Campbell Graham for me. If they're playing against easier teams, and that means that they're probably going to score most times that they go left, that they don't end up going back to the right to where Campbell is. So, yeah, that is a bit of a little down tick for Campbell Graham, but yeah, he has been pretty good so far.
I like what I've seen from Ilias. I really do. And I made a big prediction last week about Ilias that I said he'd make it to 450K, and it might have been a little extreme, but I still think that Ilias could be favourable to Campbell Graham. I like that he takes on the line, and I think that little offload to Campbell Graham. But I agree with you, in those high point scoring games, I see them going left more than I do right. And that I mean, I was a Campbell Graham owner at the end of last season, and apart from his 2 games out, it actually hurt me really badly.
Yeah. When I'm picking my players, I want to try and pick them where the ball goes in that team. And for me, the ball doesn't go right enough for me at South for me to be going someone like Campbell Graham. I don't like AJ. I hated owning AJ last year, but he was just going nuts because they were just going left so much. So I would probably end up going for AJ before I ended up going for Campbell Graham, just because that's where Cody Walker and Latrell like to line up. Same as, the Roosters kind of go both sides now, don't they? It used to be the right side for the Roosters, but they've kind of split their team a little bit now. It's getting a bit more ball to Tupou, which I'm loving. But yeah, you try and pick the areas where the ball goes the most, and for South, it's left.
There's no other team in the competition that does set plays better than the Roosters. If you actually watch them, they do it left and they do it right. And what they do is, I mean, you've probably seen it. They have 2 at the back, 1 short and 1 long. And the way they play that ball is they either pick up the second row coming through on the short, they pick up Tedesco on the long coming through, who can either go straight through or play it to the wing, or they pass it straight out to the right. And the way they set, they do it on both sides. So it's like poultry. I love it. You're right. You should go where the ball goes, and the bunnies do go left.
The big thing that Keary brings to the Roosters is that the reset. When you go far to the right and the ball goes past Keary, he's already yelling at people to get in position so that you can do a shift, rather than teams like the Broncos who'll shift it out, it gets to the back row up, the play dies, and then they do a front row back to the middle, and then they shift the other way. So when the defense has had so much time to get reset, the thing that Keary does, he brings that speed of play so they can go right, left, back to back. And that's just tears defensive lines apart.
Yeah,
true. 100%. One of the strategies I was thinking as well, because obviously there's people out there that are a bit higher ranked than myself, and there's some people out there that are a bit lower ranked as well, like myself. So we're going to try and think of strategies potentially to look at. So we've kind of touched on it a little bit, where Glenn said if the higher ownership player like Harry Grant versus Cook, for example, I want to have a little strategy here as an idea that I like to do. If you're really far behind, I believe players like the Tupous, players like the Campbell Grahams, and even the Alex Johnsons are the ones to get. But we also want to help the people that are up at the front as well. So if you're at the front, I believe the best player would be a lot of guys would have Aitken in the second row. So you can trade out those cash cows that are ready to go, like the Amones or whatever, because he's not really a cash cow, but he's ready to go, that's for sure. You can trade him
100%.
out, bring your Aitken down, and look for someone in the second row to start getting that base to keep your consistency up as well. So just because you're higher in the ranks, this is the part where I've actually been higher in the ranks in the past, and I've dropped off dramatically because I was trying to be that guy that potted up. And often you might need to just follow a little bit and get only maybe a 1 or 2 pods to try and get you ahead. Thoughts on that, Glenn?
Yeah, if you're up there, then usually the ones scoring the most points are the ones that everyone's on. So I mean that's pretty much standard. I know that being up 1,000 most years in a row, once you get up there, it's pretty hard to lose that position because the sides become closer and closer alike as the season progresses. So I mean, I would look for 1 or 2 pods if you're around 13, somewhere in the top 100, and you want to progress a little bit. But if you're way back, I'd be looking at strike. You look where you can bring strike in your side and get on that next guy. The guy, don't go for the one that's just got it. Go for the one that's next, and that's up to you to look at matches. And SuperCoach Stats is really good for that. They show you where sides leak, if it's in the middle, on an edge, on the left side. And if you actually go and look at the matchups, you can actually see where the points are leaking in each side and look at a run and see if you can find that play. And sometimes it's good to get two together. Like for me, Cook and Murray, but like Alex Johnson and a Cody Walker, or anything that's together, so you can double up on them points.
One player I was thinking of, like you said before, you're going to try and get the play over first, get him ahead of the crowd, is on that left edge as well. You've got Milne on there as well. Does Milne benefit from that great draw they've got coming in? And I don't think anyone's on him. Your thoughts on that one, Kane?
I have been keeping a very close eye on Milne.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this draw coming up definitely favours him. That was the favoured position last year. Gagai went nuts in that position last year. He's going to get a lot of ball. He's going to get a lot of open space, and he's going to potentially get a lot of tap-on assists and contributions and things for AJ on that wing. So, yeah, I think he's going to actually end up becoming quite relevant soon. I'm not sure what his exact price is at the moment. But, yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye on it.
He's 431,000. So he could be that little budget, because I think off the top of my head, I think AJ is at 578, around that mark there. So he could be that little budget guy to try and get a piece of that left edge. And I was had that thought the other day, and I was just, if I can get to him, and I might not get the same ceiling as you would with AJ, but you definitely might get some. So, Glenn?
Yeah, I like Milne. I mean, interestingly, last season, the top 20 centre wings, all of them were wings bar 3. And Gagai was one of them. I think he was the second highest. And he was on that left edge of the bunnies, He's got the base as well. So it's Milne. So I think, that could be an interesting pod play, especially at his price point.
I'll tell you right now, his ownership, I won't even say the percentage because it doesn't exist. He's owned by 355 coaches.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Really pod. It hasn't registered. It still says 0%.
Yeah, it's just that price point's a little up there, which is going to be the issue. And look, his base stats are not huge. We're looking at sort of 18 in hit ups and about 8 tackles. So like 25 in base.
Yeah, I thought it was 27.
Roughly.
Yeah. But this is
I'm calculating 4 different games at once here. So,
This is the thing where you're going to try to get, you wouldn't be buying him for his base, that's for sure. You'd be buying him to get ahead of the crowd and also get.
And they have played tough teams to this point. So, only 1 try assist and 1 try contribution so far. So, I feel like they're going to nudge up a little bit.
Oh, good. All right. Is there any other guys we can watch out for on the centre wing guys we should talk about, or should we move on to fullbacks?
Well, I'll just be looking for Cooler for whenever he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he comes back, obviously got to get a start if he's starting. I actually think that Turbo will be longer than 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I think if we can still potentially get 3 or 4 starting fullback spots for Cooler, that would be amazing. But now I'll wait to next week and we'll see who gets punted for him.
The only other one I'll mention, and I actually don't like him, but I'll mention him because so many people are buying him, is Xavier Coates. I actually nearly bought Xavier Coates last week, and I don't know why. I made 2 insane trades last week, and I'm embarrassed of both. Brown to Munster, and I went and bought, what's his name from the Roosters? Kevin Naguama. Now, don't ask me what I was thinking there. I just thought, I like that right side. I'm just going to jump on him. It's madness.
I could get it for draft, but going straight there for classic.
Mate, I don't know what I mean, I just don't know what happened last week. I wish I could do a do-over. It was just complete.
Yeah, that's me round 1. I'll take my first round's trades back again. That would be great.
I own it. I made a mistake, and now it's about rectifying it, I guess.
All right, guys. Let's move on to the fullback. So I'm pretty sure the best combination moving forward from now would be Teddy Puppy with Turbo out. And the obvious choice, really, if you've got Turbo and he's injured, would be clearly just to sell to either Teddy or Puppy if you haven't got him. If you are running a bit lower like myself and you need to try and catch up, is there any other pod moves that you'd think about doing there, Kane?
The only other guy that's kind of in the conversation for me is Latrell.
Yeah.
And again, based on the run, based on goal kicking, based on the fact that he's chiming in at the end of that back line, he could easily average 90 to 100 over the next 2 months. But then again, is it worth a... Well, if you've got Turbo and you go down to Latrell, then you'd have a pretty good chunk of cash to go and upgrade someone else as well. So that's not too bad a situation. You're still going to earn money if you go down to Pappy in that though as well. And Pappy's got a pretty big negative break even.
Yeah, I've got it here.
So if you don't have him, then now's the time.
47.
Then it comes down to your Tedesco versus Latrell, and Tedesco's also got a good run, so they're both coming up against decent opposition. Latrell's got goal kicking. It's kind of a bit of a coin flip in that situation, I reckon.
Yeah, so you got to look at when it comes to the fullbacks, you want that pod that's going to have that high ceiling, but then you look at the players that are highly owned, and they have just as high, if not higher, ceilings than anyone. So it's so hard to put up in that spot. Even Gutho last week, the Parramatta put on a massive score. I think Gutho get 60 points. So
yeah,
I think all the halves took all the points there, Brown and Moses. So yeah, definitely. I think the place to pod up is fullback. However, yeah, I think the closest and the only one in the conversation that I believe is, like you said, is Latrell, because we know Latrell has that ceiling as well. But if he gets a 140 and then Teddy gets a 140 as well, that pod move didn't really pay off, did it? But then again, you may have an extra 200K available to boost her up your second 5'8" as well. So,
well, I don't think Latrell's that cheap anyway, is he?
No, he's probably about 654.
Yeah, I'm not sure on it, but it was.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the other two.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, yeah, maybe the potting up there isn't the option. So,
what I would say to people is this: Teddy and Pappenhausen for me and Daylight. But having said that, there are a lot of people who've got Hines at fullback. If you've got Hines and Pappenhausen, one option you could look at doing is moving Hines into your halfback spot and bringing Latrell. I would only look at doing that option if I was way behind and I thought, let's just throw it out there and hope that he outscores one of the others over that duration.
Well, there will actually be quite a few people that have Hines going into fullback, because people will be selling Turbo, moving Hines from halfback to fullback and getting Cleary.
Yeah, that's true.
So there will be a bit more of Hines at fullback for the next couple of weeks as people kind of adjust. But yeah, I've said all preseason that there's only 3 fullbacks that I'm going to even consider. And one of them is overpriced, so the other 2 are locked in.
That's right. And I think that you just point out something. Cleary. So that's an interesting conversation. So what would you choose between? I know what I would choose. Having Teddy and Pappenhausen and Hines would be my combination. For those that are thinking about going Cleary, I would seriously consider putting Hines at halfback and getting Paps and Teddy. I mean, you saw what happened. They're both inside. And, I mean, Pappenhausen is just a freak.
Yeah. If I had Turbo, I'd be downgrading to a Teddy or Pap, and then using that other cash to potentially go and get a Cody Walker in 5/8, or if you don't have Grant, get Grant. If you're struggling in another position, then go and upgrade there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we have it, guys. The positional analysis in there. Let's start talking about our trades this week. I had about 7 different options in my head, and every single one of them has gone out the window now. So yeah, my plan was to start again, free up some cash to start bringing Cody Walker in next week. So I was gonna get Cooler in, get May in, get rid of Russell, who I still have, and also Amon, and that would have freed up about 125,000 in cash. And then my boost was going to be either Stags out and potentially look at bringing Firma in, another option around that price, a bit higher. Or the better option for me moving forward would be to sell for feeder, and then I could look at upgrading upgrading Starling to Cook or Grant. So, but I'm lost for it. I think I shared my team with Glen earlier. So I think he's probably not shaking his head. No, I thought because it's a pretty bad looking team, wasn't it, Glen?
Oh, I don't think it's as bad as you think it is. I think that you've made, I mean, you didn't put the captain on Pappenhausen, so there alone, that hurts. Your second row needs a little bit of work, mate. I don't think your team's as bad as you think it is. I think that a few little tweaks and you'll be on your way. I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, well, I'll let everyone know what my trades are on the page a bit later, probably before Thursday, because I literally have no idea what I'm doing now. I'll have to rethink and get back to the drawing board, really. Kane, any trade options for you, mate?
Well, with the cooler news, I'll be waiting to bring him back when he comes back. So at the moment, I've just got the one, which is Eli Katoa out, bringing Tago up into the second row and getting May. So freeing up a bit of cash there, about 100K. It leaves me a little bit in the bank. I might look at doing another downgrade. Like I could potentially even go early on the Moali this week. And then I can potentially do a downgrade for Cooler next week if he's back. And then I've got the cash for my Cody Walker bump up and maybe a boost bump up for Starling as well. So, yeah, there's a few different things floating around in my mind, but the only thing locked in at the moment is the Eli Katoa to May.
Cool. Glenn, your trades, mate.
Yeah, I already have, mate. So I'm looking at Elise Katoa myself to somebody, and then I'm actually thinking Momasia. As much as I don't really like it, I just think that my second row everywhere else isn't too bad. So I could take that cash grab, and that gives me enough money to just go straight Snyder to Walker or Brown. So that's one option I'm looking at. The other one could be I go for feeder down to Tupou, and then going Snyder to Walker.
Yeah.
I know I did it with Tupou and I didn't have enough to get to Brown, but I did have enough to get to Walker, who's just a little bit cheaper.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so VC and captain choices, guys. Before I say what I'm going to do we know what side Naden normally defends on into the for the Bulldogs? The left side.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of actually potentially throwing a sneaky pod captain out there and looking at a Targo or a May as a pod captain against the Bulldogs. So I also need to make some kind of moves to get there. But it's really hard. And this way I'd put the VC onto a Hines.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But other than that, the vanilla version would have been Puppy VC, Hines captain. So your thoughts, Kane?
I would like to do VC Pap Hines captain, but I don't have any NPRs that are going to allow me to do that.
Yeah.
I've only got Billy Smith and Vilea. Vilea's Friday and Smith. The Roosters are Friday.
Yeah, I think so.
As well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my looping options are pretty well cooked. So I'll be looking more at actually. Oh no, Cooler's first game. Damn, I could have. Damn it.
Yeah, I spent the whole
I was
afternoon.
like, oh, great idea. I can get him as an NPR. No, that doesn't work either.
I spent the whole afternoon looking at ways to try to loop. And my trades were going to be Russell out and Mamone out to Cooler and May. And I was like, maybe I'll hold off on the Russell trade because he plays a bit later. I could use him as a loop if I need to. So...
Yeah, so I don't have a loop option, so I'll be putting the captaincy on Hines.
Yeah.
Okay. And Glenn?
VC Teddy and C Hines. I've got Schiller, so I can use Schiller as my VC loop. And so that's how I'll be doing it. I ideally would like to do what Kane just said. I think Pappenhausen would be the one I'd like to do it with, and but I'm not in a position to be able to do that either.
Yeah, because Puppy plays against Schiller, or against the Canberra Raiders.
Raiders, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a bit scary. I know there's supposed to be a little bit of rain around Wagga, but it's in a day as well. But there's not supposed to be too much rain in Wagga. And
It looks better than a lot of the other games.
Yeah, it does. It does dry up quite well. I do visit Wagga a fair bit for work, and it does dry up quite quickly after a rainy day. I'm not sure about the actual field itself, but the area gets pretty warm pretty quickly. So I reckon it might be a nice little afternoon game, and Puppy might thrive quite well.
So just on that, Kane, do you know what games got predictions for rain? No, that should something we should bring into the pod, I think.
Yeah, not just off the top of my head. No, I've kind of had a little bit of a flick through, but not detailed yet.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's about a lot of rain in New South Wales up to Friday. It's supposed to be quite heavy. I didn't know much past that, so I might have a look at that. And I think that's something we'll bring onto our pod in future. I'll start looking that up a little bit more and trying to have that knowledge for people so that we can know that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will tell you right now is the first game, which is tomorrow night. It's been pouring down around Newcastle area, and it's been so it might be a nice squishy game tomorrow night, Manly versus the Knights. Yeah,
I'm on the Central Coast, and it's been kind of on and off for the last half an hour or so, but it was supposed to rain all day, and this is the first we've got just in the last half hour. So
yeah, because I've got a few colleagues that work up there, and they told me that they were expecting a big heavy downpour on Thursday as well.
Yeah,
so.
It was meant to be pouring all day today, but it didn't even start until night. So
fair enough. Never trust the weatherman.
No.
All right, guys. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we head off?
No, I'm good.
I think we covered it.
Yeah, thank you, Kane, for coming on. I appreciate that.
Not a problem at all.
Yeah, mate. You're welcome anytime, mate. Thanks again. And join us next week. We'll be going again live, or not live, but we're going again on Wednesday night next week. And we'll see you all then. Peace out.
See you guys.
Bye.
I want to win. I want that trophy. I want that trophy. I want that trophy.